Oh, Brian. Look, I can't cover the whole segment because obviously it's very long. Oh my god, it's an hour. Holy shit, I'm 15 minutes in. I'm just going to cover this last thing that you said because I want to explain something to you.
On the biggest conservative network on TV. I think, to be honest, of course, he can go the Alex Jones route, which is to do his own iteration of InfoWars. I think that's going to be a heavy.
Let me go a little bit back further. So they're talking about what's going to happen to Tucker Carlson after he got fired by Fox, right? Let's go back to the beginning.
Grossberg's lawsuit, for which she apparently holds a lot of the receipts. What are you hearing from your sources, and why, in your opinion, was Carlson fired in such an ice-cold way? Especially, the guy was like their top-rated host.
Yeah, he was their cash cow. That is like the question of the day here. And here's the only way that I can kind of wrap.
He was calling executives the C word, you guys. Why is it that dudes can't acknowledge that you can't just throw out expletives like this? You can't you can't use female genitalia as derogative terms against your coworkers and expect that there's gonna be no consequences. Why is this such a hard concept for you guys? I don't care how fucking famous he is, how much money he's bringing in. Not only was he calling his executives the C word, but he also put them in legal jeopardy. But you'll get to that. Okay, let's go.
Rationalize this in my mind, because otherwise it really doesn't make sense to me. I think that Rupert Murdoch just figured that Tucker Carlson is just such a massive liability with no ability to basically moderate what he says moving forward or moderate what he does moving forward, that he just figured, based on some cost benefit analysis, that it would just be easier to fire Tucker Carlson now than deal with what he assumes will be the inevitable.
We're in 2023, and we still have employers out there who are willing to just fucking look the other way on hostile work environments, defamatory names, disparaging names, racism, bigotry, sexism. They really don't. If you're making money for your employer, they're cool with that, especially if you're a white dude like Tucker Carlson. But for the rest of us who have to support assholes like that, we just have to suck it up, Buttercup. Let's go.
Legal issues moving forward. And so that's the only way that I can justify this. He knows that you cannot change Tucker Carlson. And so based on what he knows about him, based on what he knows about him to his core, he knows there's going to be legal issues moving forward. He knows there's going to be these gender discrimination lawsuits moving forward. It's not just going to be Abby Grossberg. It's going to be the next person. And so maybe he just figured, look, because it's priced in here, that we know that Tucker Carlson is going to get himself mired in more legal issues moving forward, and it's going to cost me, Rupert Murdoch, more money moving forward. It's just easier to cut the guy loose now. And something else that I think is especially interesting about this, and I've read a few.
Honestly, at this point, I don't believe it's any of that, because I don't think Rupert or Fox gives a shit about actually creating a work environment that is reasonable, right? I think at this point he somehow personally offended Rupert Murdoch, which is why he personally got involved in firing him. He did something so bad that even that jackass Rupert Murdoch was so fucking offended that he fired him personally. Because clearly, I mean, the emails were out there. He was calling people the C word. He was writing, he put, you know what? Seriously, I wrote one joke on email 20 years ago, and immediately got contacted by my manager and told never do that again. And I think it was something like I called somebody a Canuck. It was dumb. It's a really dumbass thing. But like, if I could have a manager come after me for something as stupid as that, and they let this guy use the C word like that, oh my god, even they don't care. They don't care. They're gonna they gave him the world. Something happened between him and Rupert that was personal. That's the only way this went down, you guys.
A few different op-eds in these last 24 hours here, and that is this idea that Tucker needs Fox more than Fox needs Tucker. And regardless, it's Fox's audience. And yes, of course, Tucker has a big audience, but these are people that tune in to Fox. And we know, based on other people in the past, that when you deplatform someone, it's really hard for them to reach the same same scale of people that they've been able to reach before. And so I think Rupert Murdoch, at the end of the day, just knows that like Fox will be okay, relatively speaking, without Tucker. It's Tucker who needs the network, who needs those eyeballs, who needs the exposure to those millions of people a hell of a lot more than Rupert Murdoch just needs this, this one random host at 9 p.m.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a tough call. I sort of sat with this concept of Rupert. Rupert used to live in my building before he moved. I would see him every morning downstairs at the gym at like 6 a.m. Incredibly.
We're talking about a guy in his 90s. I don't know when Michael Cohen fucking lived in the same building with him, but we're talking about a guy in the 90s. What kind of weights was he lifting, Michael? Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to. Let's go.
Chatty guy, nice guy. I mean, easy to speak to. Not what you would think in terms of a Rupert Murdoch.
Yeah.
But
Michael,
he is extremely...
I hope he saves the place when he moved out.
Yeah, he's extremely calculating. So there's definite the theory that you're putting out there. However, I can't help but wonder whether or not it has to do, of course, with this historic settlement that Fox just had to pay out on the Dominion voting system lawsuit.
Here's why I'm not sure about that issue, and that's because this already happened. So at this point, it would seem so bizarre for Rupert Murdoch to not only have to pay that historic $787 million lawsuit, but then to also deprive himself of the network's cash cow. So it seems like he's kind of like... It just doesn't, it kind of defies logic in a sense that he would not only have to...
No, he already knows, though. He's already fired Glenn Beck. He's already fired Bill O'Reilly. So he knows how this rolls. Like, the personality on his program is not as important as his program. And I think that's the point you're trying to get to. Is that the network itself has more value than the personalities they put on the programs.
To make this massive payment because of the settlement, but then also deprive himself of future earnings by virtue of having someone like Tucker Carlson, who is that network's biggest star. And so that's why I'm just having trouble wrapping my mind around just this idea that Rupert Murdoch is doing this because he wants to punish Tucker, when in essence, he is kind of punishing himself. I mean, it's already happened. The payments already had to be made because of what Tucker...
No, he's not. No, he's not, Brian. I know you're very young, okay, but Fox has been around for like 3 decades now, and it's not going away. It's not going away. Tucker is just the latest personality to get the fucking can. Not a big deal to Rupert. Plus, Rupert's on death's door, dude. He's just like, whatever, I only got a couple of years left. Obviously, he got personally offended somehow. We don't know what it was, but something happened. Like, it took multiple sexual allegations against Bill O'Reilly to take that motherfucker down, right? I don't even remember what the problem with Glenn Beck was. I can't even remember why he got fired so long ago. But Tucker Carlson, Rupert was totally on board with everything he was saying. So something happened in the background, Brian. He pissed him off somehow. We don't know exactly what it was. We can speculate, but I don't know what the fuck that motherfucker did.
Among other hosts have done, and so that part seems a little bizarre to me. I don't know.
And
if you
he's
agree
not,
with that.
yeah, and Rupert's not done with the hosts, right? I heard, Maria Bartiromo is on the chopping block, as well as I forget there's somebody else, as well that they're looking at. But to your point, it already happened. Well, you know that there's as well an existing lawsuit by Abby Grossberg, who worked with Tucker Carlson, on the show. And this lawsuit, of course, alleges all sorts of rampant sexism and anti-Semitism behavior that was going on by Tucker Carlson. Some also say that it's perhaps these profanity-laced remarks, some which were, later, of course, redacted in the Dominion Discovery documents. You also have the issue of Smartmatic.
He's making it out like, come on, Michael. Redacted doesn't mean that Tucker was taking it back. It means that it was so fucking offensive that they didn't want it in written form in court. Come on, man. I know you're disbarred, but you're not that dumb. Come on. It's not like that motherfucker took back. In fact, it leaked that he said he wanted it to be quoted in real time without redaction. He wanted everybody to know that he said, "See you next Tuesday." He wanted everybody to know it. Okay? So it's not like the way you're saying it is as if he was trying to take it back. He wasn't fucking trying to take it back.
You have comments that were privately made by Tucker Carlson, whereby he was disparaging not just Rupert Murdoch, but other colleagues, including, by the way, Donald Trump himself, right? I know that some of those disparaging comments were made about Lachlan Murdoch, Rupert's son. And I don't know. I don't know. And I can't figure out exactly why you would do it, because on the same theory that...
Oh, by the way, I'm going to cover this right now. Okay, so there's that troll that follows me and has a name for me, right? And his entire shtick is talking about how people are using teleprompters. And I think I agree with you. In many cases they are. In fact, Hassan recently said that that's exactly what he did for TYT, and that's part of the ecosystem that you like to cover. The question is not whether or not they write their thoughts out in advance so that they don't trip over their words, which is not a terrible thing, by the way. The question is, how much creative control do they have over their own content? Tucker Carlson, according to his text messages, felt like he had a lot of creative control. Like he was bullying the people around him. And I know you just did a fucking video on him too. But when you get to people like the other people you've covered, like Fiorella and Pasta and stuff like that, I don't think they have a lot of creative control. If anything, with Convo Couch, probably Pasta has more so than Fiorella, because Fiorella is fucking ignorant, let's be real. But some of these dudes, I think, are legitimately using writers. And I think that is, like, if you're going to continue, which you are, you're constantly telling everybody that you're not going to do this anymore, but you keep doing it anyway. If you're going to cover the topic, you should talk about, okay, they probably have writers, because some of these people are too ignorant to say the things that they're reading off of that teleprompter. So who's writing for them? Who's funding them? These are bigger questions than what you're diving into. And it doesn't matter if you like put up weird images of increasing the size of their eyes and small faces, and like that doesn't fucking matter. That doesn't matter. Like, if you want to dive deep into the subject of what is this ecosystem, find out who the hell is writing for them. Because I don't know. I don't know who's writing for them, and I don't know who's funding them. And I'm too tired and weak right now to, like, fucking try and do the research on this.
It's already happened, and these lawsuits are going to take place or are already in the process of taking place. Yeah, why get rid of your number one star?
I mean, are your kids in grades 6 to 11? Harvard has made SAT and ACT. There may be some degree, just to kind of play the other side of this argument here, there may be some degree of ego with all of this. I mean, this network is like steeped in this idea of just, you know, the same toxic masculinity that Tucker sold as a part of his show is probably pervasive throughout the entirety of that network. And so when they did see, thanks to this Dominion lawsuit, when they did see these text messages from Tucker Carlson disparaging Fox's leadership, it's not like Fox's leadership is going to, you know, just roll over here. I mean, these...
When they did see, Brian, literally these are the only reason that they could have been subpoenaed was that they were on the Fox network. They already saw these fucking text messages. They knew they existed because he was communicating with executives at Fox while he was doing it. It's not like they dove into his Gmail account, Brian. Discovery is about what was on the Fox network, man. They didn't dive into his personal emails. This is shit that happened on the clock. Are you kidding me? They already knew this happened. Come on, man.
People have egos just like Tucker does, just like Hannity and all these other people do. Everybody's got egos here. That's what drives so much of these people. And so I think, you know, there just may be some degree of it being a pissing contest, and Rupert Murdoch saying, like, look, this is, at the end of the day, this is my territory, and you know, fuck you, and it might just be as simple as that.
Yeah, I see. Again, no.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, he's probably like the Barbara Streisand of conservative news. You know, because Barbara Streisand got blacklisted a long time ago. They still let her do movies because she's very talented and she gets the job done. But the reality is everybody knows that she's difficult to work with. It's a well-known rumor in Hollywood. Like, I remember watching, what was that movie with, I think it was Nick Nolte. It was something about how he and his sister basically got raped as kids when they lived in, like, South Carolina. And he's repressed the memory. And Barbara Streisand was playing his therapist. And they had an affair together, right? Well, anyway, they were playing it on television as like a special that night. It was like, this is like really old school too. But I think they were doing it in the aughts. Where they played the movie on TV, but they were upping the volume on the commercials when they were playing it. And Barbara Streisand called the fucking... She called the network that was broadcasting it that night and yelled at them about the volume of their fucking commercials. She wasn't wrong, okay? She wasn't wrong. But that's, I imagine that's probably what's going down with Tucker, is that he was difficult. And a lot of people don't like it when you're calling all the time to complain, you know? If you're complaining all the time, you're going to be difficult to work with. Honestly, I probably have this problem too, because I'm always like, why are we doing this? I have a similar problem.
Rupert as the businessman and the astute businessman that he is. Let's be real. The guy is international, and It's almost like in the TV show Succession, right?
Yeah.
Where he's just a titan of this industry. Whether you agree with their positions or not, it really becomes irrelevant. But I think what Rupert probably did is he probably took out a piece of paper and a pen and scratched out the pros versus the cons.
Yeah.
Tucker Carlson is a legal fucking liability that if you don't cut the legs off today, will go on ad infinitum.
Oh, come on, Michael. For real. I mean, you've worked with CEOs, C-level people. I have too. They don't take the time to do that bullshit. They act on instinct in the moment because they feel like their time is much more important than everybody else's time. He's not going to sit down and fucking write a list. Are you kidding me? He's going to act on how he felt in that moment. He's going to be like, you know what? This has been building. It's been building and it's really pissing me off. And I don't want to deal with this motherfucker anymore. And I've literally fired bigger personalities than him. And I could totally replace him so easy because I can build people up. And I've done it before. You honestly think somebody at Rupert Murdoch's level is going to sit down and write a fucking pros and cons list about Tucker Carlson? He already sees himself as 10,000 feet above that guy. Give me a break, dude.
And how many more billions can Fox afford to pay? They could afford to pay this. I don't know if they'll be able to afford to pay Smartmatic in the other 5 cases that are existing, including, Abby Grossman's, lawsuit against Tucker and so on. So who knows? Maybe it had to do with saying, if we get rid of him today, at least we know, better than likely, that there's not going to be more shit coming down the pike because, as everybody says, Tucker Carlson is absolutely uncontrollable.
Yeah, and I think there may be some degree too of like this has been so imbued in Fox's business model for so long, from the Roger Ailes of the world to Bill O'Reilly to Tucker Carlson. I mean, there has to be a point at which making these unnecessary or unforced errors, these payouts because of these constant sexual harassment suits and just these things that should not happen at any semblance of a legitimate news organization, and yet they're happening anyway at Fox, and they're happening with such frequency to the point where now I believe if what I've read was correct, that Fox's profits last year were $1.2 billion. In one fell swoop, the Dominion lawsuit wipes out more than half of that. Like you said, you've got the Smartmatic lawsuit, which is for 33% more than the Dominion lawsuit. You've got those shareholder lawsuits because Fox breached its fiduciary duty to its own shareholders by virtue of allowing this bullshit to stand on their network. You've got the Abby Grossberg lawsuit. So there might just be a point at which the legal liabilities of this company are just so far outweigh the actual practice of what this company is supposed to do, which is just to be a news organization or some semblance of a news organization. I mean, you and I think we're, there's no doubt about the legitimacy of the news that they put forward, but this is not an organization that is just there to make money and then pay out immediately because of defamation lawsuits and sexual harassment lawsuits.
Right.
It kind of defies all logic. So
Yeah.
I think there just is some degree of we need some financial viability moving forward, and we're not going to be able to do it if all we're doing right now is covering for the very people who are supposed to make us money, and yet instead of that, they're just costing us money.
Yeah, in those days of of 100 years ago, 50, 20 years ago, where, the casting couch or that the anchor can do or say, like in the movie Anchorman, right?
Yeah.
Which is a great depiction. Those days also, they were smoking on set. Those days are all over. This workforce harassment is a real issue, and it's been proven time and time again. I mean, this defamation, we're terrible in this country when it comes to defamation lawsuits. However, I think that what this case is showing is that the courts now take it serious, and I think a lot of it has to do kind of more with your generation and, and even the Gen Zers, the younger generation than yourself. It's just not acceptable anymore. And I think the courts are proving that. Let me ask you this, though. Then we'll get off of fucker Carlson for the rest of this show.
Oh, come on, Michael. I'm Gen X. I'm probably about 10 years younger than you. I think you're about probably 10 years older than me, right? You are probably a boomer on the lower half of that scale, is my guess. But I'm Gen X. And no, it wasn't acceptable in my generation either. And we fought against it too. Okay? We paved a lot of the way for the millennials and the Gen Zs. We worked really fucking hard to fight this sort of bullshit. Okay? And yeah, you want to go way back? Let's talk about like I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched, where they had the dads in this scenario, the husbands in this scenario, worked in offices where they kept liquor cabinets. You want to talk about smoking in the office? They kept liquor cabinets in the office and offered drinks to all their clients. Let's be real.
What do you think happens to him? Where do you think he goes? What do you think he does?
The reason why your autoimmune condition and fatigue are getting worse, despite doing
happens to him. Where do you think he goes? What do you think he does?
That is a great question. It can go a few different ways. I mean, I'm sure you have the other networks, the Newsmaxes and the OANs vying for him. I don't know that Tucker Carlson is going to, stoop beneath himself to go to one of these, I guess what we would consider a fringe network. I don't know that Newsmax really has the allure for someone like Tucker Carlson, who was leading, the biggest show on the biggest conservative network on TV. I think, to be honest, I mean, of course, he can go the Alex Jones route, which is to do his own iteration of InfoWars. I think that's going to be a heavy.
What a wide take. I mean, that's so all over the place, Brian. First of all, he got shit canned. Let's be real. Fox made him, not the other way around. He got fired from 3 other networks before he went to Fox. Okay? So his best prospects at this point is to go cuddle up with Glenn Greenwald on Rumble or do Newsmax or OAN. If he tries to start his own network, he's absolutely done. But at least they have somewhat of an audience that he can tap into. But that motherfucker can't get an audience all on his own. I do find it interesting where you're going next, though. So next they're going to talk about Trump potentially tapping him for a VP. That would be hilarious. That would be hilarious because I think at this point, Trump has to run with a woman. He has to. He's probably going to pick Nikki Haley, right? But he certainly can't pick Mike Pence because he fucking tried to kill Mike Pence. Guys, trying to kill Mike Pence. So Mike Pence is not going to be on board with this bullshit. Can't even. You think you're going to tag Tucker along to Trump? I mean... That's a hilarious ticket. That's a hilarious ticket. Let's see if it happens. Maybe it'll happen.
Lift too, because as we know, it's hard to bring people to a new outlet, and I think a lot of the benefit that Tucker was able to benefit from is the fact that this was a whole organization, and you have people who were fans of all the other hosts. You have people who were fans of the Brett Baiers and the Sean Hannitys and the Laura Ingrams and the Five. So all of that filtered into his show. It wasn't just people who were watching Tucker Carlson. It's a lot of the fact that, this channel was just on in every nursing home, in every doctor's waiting room office, and in plenty of people's houses across the country. And so that helped him to a degree too. So it's not like all of his audience was seeking Tucker Carlson out specifically. I think what may be more likely, or what may be possible, I don't know if it's more likely, but there is a possibility that Tucker could maybe try to start his own network. I mean, there is clearly an appetite for these fringe far right figures, and I think that Tucker alone, in the audience that does just want to watch him specifically, aside from all those people who just watched Fox because Fox was on, I think that he does have a play to make here to maybe start his own network. And there's plenty of people who would be sympathetic to.
The funny thing about saying that like Fox is on everywhere, which by the way it is, he's not wrong about this. Like they literally used to play it in my gym too, and there were folks like me who complained about it. Turn that swill off. Why do you have that lying channel up? But if you start going further to the right than that, you start putting up OAN and fucking Newsmax in the gym, people are going to be really fucking pissed. We don't want that fucking Nazi swivel in our goddamn gyms and doctors' offices. Plus, it says so much about the business that's operating. The doctor that I just separated ways with, if you will, was always playing very bizarre shit in the waiting room. It's always like teenage movies and stuff like that. And I'm like, why are we watching this? What is going on here? Can't you just put on something normal like CNN or like what the fuck am I watching right now? You had over a dozen people sitting in your waiting room watching it's not even as good as Stranger Things, but it's kind of on the level.
His cause and could also find themselves on that network.
Yeah,
too.
I don't see that, Brian. To be honest with you, I don't see him starting his own network. I don't think he has the fortitude to actually do it. And taking a look to see, even for example, remember, when Trump started this whole Truth Social, this is a guy he was the former president of the United States with like 100 million followers on Twitter and social media. He's got nobody on this Untruth Social. It's not as easy as people think that you just go there like an Alex Jones. Say what people want to.
I know this is like Google Plus. Anytime you try and start up a new social media network, you either have to have something super catchy that like everybody gets into immediately, like TikTok did, or you're done. Like for instance, Blue Skies, which everybody's trying to jump onto Blue Skies right now. It's making the same mistake that Google Plus did, which is, oh, it's so exclusive that you can only join if you get invited by a friend. Well, then fuck you and your bullshit. You don't want my content production? I don't need you. Like, I literally have several other platforms I'm on. I don't need to constantly rebuild, especially when you're going to be a dumbass about it. Look, you want to start a social media platform, you fucking open it to everybody.
About Alex Jones. The guy was captivating. He managed to somehow do it. It's not as easy. It's why every show isn't like, Curb Your Enthusiasm, where it's just a hit no matter, whether it's the first show of the first season or the last show of the last season. It doesn't matter. They're all just great.
Yeah, and you may be completely right. I mean, I'm just trying to like throw out ideas in terms of what he does. And look, if he ends up not being able to have the platform, if he kind of goes away in the same way that Bill O'Reilly has some like website that I'm sure has tens of people visiting each day, but like. From your lips to God's ears, right? In terms of Tucker not being able to reach the same sheer number of people that he's reaching. So I hope that you're right. But yeah, I mean, there are some options. It will be interesting. Somewhere deep in my core, as much as it pains me to say it, I don't think that he'll just disappear. But at least I think what we can be sure of is that wherever he ends up, if he ends up somewhere, he won't be able to reach the same number of people that he reaches, that he was able to reach on Fox. And I think that that's a good thing.
Yep.
You know what I was thinking? I was thinking last night and talking to my wife and my daughter and my son about this while we were having dinner. And I said, I could see Donald asking Fucker Carlson to be the vice president, to be his running mate into it. He attracts, obviously, a big enough base. He's a loudmouth. he certainly has shown himself, in some respects, to be loyal, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, he has those qualities, Michael, but the thing is that people like other people for various reasons, right? Like, so for instance, what was that guy's name on Survivor? Rupert Grint, right? I think that's what his name was. You know how many people love him because he's just a jolly old giant, right? Do you think they would also vote for him for president? People like people for different reasons. And I don't know that there's going to be a lot of people in America who are going to look at Tucker Carlson and say, yep, that's leadership skills right there. I don't know that that's going to happen. People like people for different reasons. And so that's why popularity means nothing. It means nothing because it doesn't, you can like somebody and still not find them qualified for a leadership role. You can be like, oh, yes, I love this person. They make me feel so good. Oh, no, I don't want them to be in charge of the nukes. It's not, it doesn't quite work that way, you know? And I think it's, at this point, especially with all these court cases going on, I think it's highly unlikely that Trump will get reelected, but maybe I'll be eating my hat next year. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
By throwing all those softballs to
Well,
Donald.
loyal maybe,
or-
except for his text messages where he basically explained how much he hates the guy, but publicly loyal.
Or if not the vice president, then to fill some sort of a communications director position in the campaign. But that, to me, would be a smart move by Donald. And it's something I can see Tucker getting himself involved with because it would still keep him on a national stage.
So I'm going to disagree with you on this one. I think it would be such a massive miscalculation for someone who already has a problem reaching anybody outside of his base. Donald Trump's base,
Oh, here's actually why. Okay, so I'm not going to cover this whole video because it's fucking long, right? It's like an hour. But this is right here why I decided to cover the video. So, Brian, I guess, you're younger. Your memory's a little short. But I hope you do remember that Kamala Harris fucking destroyed Joe Biden in the 2020 debates, the 2019 debates. I was that little girl. To the point that the rest of us Democratic organizers thought there was no way in fucking hell he would choose her as VP. And guess what he did? I was that little girl.
30% of people who he relies on to derive all of his power, that's not enough to win any semblance of a general election. I mean, he's right now very clearly just trying to win a primary, and that's fine. He has Ron DeSantis in his sights. That's his only priority. But there's going to come a point where if Donald Trump does win the primary and he has to move forward with the general election.
I think at this point, I think it's unlikely that DeSantis is going to announce. He's already gotten beaten up so badly, and he's fucking rattled and doing weird anxiety moves where he's like, looks like a bobblehead and shit. If that dude announces, that'll be hilarious because it's only gonna uptick. And I kind of feel sorry for him. I mean, like, who the hell wants to see somebody get bullied like that? I mean, pudding fingers. But no, I think that your memory is too short, Brian.
Having someone like Tucker Carlson, who, by the way, their audiences, if this was a Venn diagram, it would just be a circle. Their audiences already overlap. He doesn't fill any void in Donald Trump's in the people that Donald Trump needs to win this election. So having a guy who's trafficked openly in white supremacy with the great replacement theory
Yeah, but he's also tapping into the evangelical bullshit, which is one of the rumors that's happening right now, is that apparently he's been too pro-Christianity. This is one of my favorite rumors that's circulating because I think it's hilarious that this disgusting demon of a 96-year-old or however old he is, Rupert Murdoch is pissed off about something about him playing up the evangelical line to try and get um his fiance to like him or something like that. That's the weirdest rumor I've heard so far. But I kind of love it because it's so funny. The idea of having somebody that old and that rich afraid that Tucker Carlson is going to steal away his fiance. I love that rumor. That one's so good. That one's great, you guys.
Anti-Semitism, in xenophobia, in misogyny. I don't think that that's the person that Donald Trump needs to be able to finally, eke out those few more percentage points that he would require in terms of
But Brian,
an actual election.
But Brian, that is Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a racist, sexist, misogynistic, xenophobic.
But he had someone like Mike Pence.
I understand that. But hold 1 second here, because it's Donald right now that's on trial for a civil case of E. Jean Carroll, which is a rape case. It's the same person. But I say bringing Tucker in because let me tell you what's going on in Donald's head. Donald knows, based upon being twice impeached, now indicted, on trial, right? He's got multiple litigations that are ensuing and coming down the pipe, including the theft of, documentation that didn't belong to him, top secret documentation. He has the case popping up. Hopefully one of these days, the January 6th insurrection. You start seeing the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers now turning against Donald. He realized his general election is nearly impossible for him to win, except for one thing.
Hold up. Tell me more about that. I didn't know they were turning against him. The Oath Keepers and shit are not, they're not on his side. Oh, probably because he didn't pardon them, right? They all thought they were going to storm the castle and that he would just give them a pardon. And he's like, well, thanks for the fun party, friends, but you're on the hook now. Well, you're all the dumbasses who followed that bitch.
There's so many people out there that are afraid if Joe Biden wins, right, and it becomes the nominee, which he's likely to be automatically, he'll be 82 when this starts, right? A lot of people are nervous about it. I hear it from not just Republicans, but I hear it from Democrats and people who supported Biden for the last 30, 40 years. They're like, he's old. Even his announcement lacked energy. Whereas you have this orange-crusted Mandarin Mussolini out there fighting like a fucking 30-year-old. Say what you want about the guy. I think he's fucking mentally insane. But he has the energy to fight. Joe Biden got up.
Well, Michael, you obviously haven't seen him with his spray tan off because when he has not refreshed his spray tan, he looks way the fuck older than Joe Biden. I'm just being real with you, dude. And you know what? Like, if you're going to switch parties, which it sounds like you have, then you should be wholehearted about it and not like try and pump up your old boss who fucked you over and put you in prison.
They're on that announcement. Everybody said to me, what he is an absolutely decent human being. He has empathy for people. He has empathy for situations. He has care and love in his heart, something that Donald does not. But he has no energy. And I think Donald feels as long as he can get the nomination, that when you're sitting in that voting booth, you may...
This motherfucker obviously did not watch the White House Correspondent Dinner last weekend. Oh my God, Michael. Why are you like so... You act like you're going to be a Democrat, but you're like tearing down Biden? This is wild.
Be thinking twice about a guy who's going to be 82 years old when he starts that term, a second term, and that may be enough. That may be enough.
I would presume that it is that.
What's the age difference, Michael? Isn't Donald like 78? I mean, what are we talking about here? I mean, like, they're not that far apart in age. Like, why are you making this a big fucking deal? That's hilarious. I can't even.
That very energy and that very loudness that's espoused by Donald Trump, that's actually going to redound to his disadvantage, not to his benefit in this situation. Because I think you can have a guy who, yes, is old, and I think you can have most people who say, like, if depending on what these polls say, you can have people that say, like, he's too old, that's a problem for me. But at the end of the day, these elections, it's binary, right? The choice is binary. And so it's not just that Joe Biden, it's not just that your opinions happen with regard to Joe Biden in a vacuum. It's a choice between two people. And so you can say, I think you have people who can say that, yeah, Joe Biden, his age is a problem for me. But at the end of the day, when they walk into a polling booth and the choice is between Joe Biden, who people have issues with his age, or Donald Trump, a twice impeached, now, guy on trial right now, like you were saying, for rape, I think people are going to be able to split up those two things and be able to say, yes, while Joe Biden's age might be an issue for me.
I mean, Michael, come on, man. We're talking about like 4 years difference in age. Fuck's sake. And Trump is fatter than Joe Biden. I've seen Joe Biden speak, by the way. He looked perfectly healthy to me. And I think that you guys keep harping on this subject just to make it a thing. So what's your purpose, Michael Cohen? Are you still a Republican? Or are you trying to throw it back to Trump? What's happening here? Because their age difference isn't that big. They are pretty close in age. And this sort of line of topic makes me question your intentions.
It's certainly not even close to being in the same ballpark as someone like Donald Trump. And so I think, just in terms of this election being a binary choice between two people, when it comes to someone like Joe Biden or Donald Trump, I'm not worried at the end of the day about someone saying, well, Joe Biden's too old, so I'm going to just have to hold my nose and vote for the guy who tried to incite an insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. I have a lot more faith in people than that, basically.
I mean, I've even heard Democrats turn around and say it's a real problem for them. And I'm talking about real Democrats. I'm not talking about the fake ones. I'm talking about real Democrats that continuously vote Democrat.
I'm sorry, Michael. What? The real Democrats, right, Michael? Didn't you just switch parties because you fucking had to go to prison because your boss made you do shit that you shouldn't have had to do? And as an attorney, you should have known better? Who are the real Democrats, Michael? You got a lot of real Democrats within your social circle? Dude, I go to Central Committee every goddamn month. I've been volunteering since 2017. And before that, I was a single mom who was voting Democrat at the top of the ticket, even before I switched parties to Democrat in 2009. Here you are, the real Democrats. Shut the fuck up, man. You literally were working for Republicans. You don't get to say the real Democrats. Tell me who the real Democrats are, Michael. Who are the real fucking Democrats?
Down the line, where they said, a vote for Joe Biden and a second term is really a vote for Kamala Harris. And while they may be fans of Joe Biden, they're not fans of Kamala's. And, we'll get to that in a minute. But let me ask you this question for a second. Because there's been a special master now assigned to investigate how Fox may have criminally obstructed their most recent defamation lawsuit with Dominion. Now, tell me if I'm wrong, but don't the wheels seem to be coming off of the big lie and that the people who pushed it by proxy?
Yeah, I think the wheels have been off the big lie since the moment it started happening in terms of people. I think, to Democrats' credit or to the pro-democracy factions' credit, people have been able to call, I mean, just the fact that the moniker, the big lie, has stuck is a testament to our benefit, to our advantage in terms of messaging this thing. And people will complain about Democrats' messaging abilities from now until the end of time. But I think in this instance, the way the Democrats, or the way that the pro-democracy faction of Americans were able to label this thing, the big lie, right off the bat, shows that there was always an understanding of exactly what this was. I think that, in terms of the wheels coming off this thing, I mean, the wheels were...
I gotta like wrap it up here because the video is getting too long and I gotta clip it. But to Michael Cohen, which it's entirely possible you actually might watch this, because I know a lot of you live streamers, including Brian Taylor Cohen, who happens to be on my Facebook friends list too. I know that you come across my videos. I'm not saying you watch them regularly or whatever. But Michael, come on, man. We're ready to accept you into the fold. We're ready to like embrace you, right? But it's also kind of like if I complain about a family member and then you complain about my family member, that's like not cool, okay? Like I can have complaints about my family member because that's me. I grew up in that situation. I'm allowed to have like some beefs about it. But you're just on the sidelines. You're literally just on the sidelines, Michael, making complaints about Democratic politicians when you recently became a Democrat, which I don't even know if you are. You might be no party preference. But point being is, look, I can talk trash about Kamala Harris all day long. Not you, buddy. You fucking worked for Trump. You made the decisions that you did. You paid your debt to society, and now we're trying to embrace you. So don't fucking piss us off, okay? Fuck's sake, Tucker Carlson is VP.